The lock was broken or something, so nobody could get in. At least, I'm glad they finally got it open. It was beginning to smell pretty bad. You could smell it from the driveway. Now it just smells like paste. I can't wait until my parents get home and put an end to all the craziness. Their trial is next week. They have to be found innocent. I mean, if they stole an elephant, I would know about it, wouldn't I? Where could you hide an elephant? Look, he's reading, said Robbie. I didn't know he knew how to read, laughed Curtis. Bradley looked up. He was surrounded by Jeff and his gang. He can't read, said Brian. He just looks at the pictures. They all laughed. What you reading? Asked Russell. Bradley closed the book and slowly stood on the concrete steps. Chicken charcoal, said Dan. Andy bounced a basketball. Bradley glanced behind him. Doug was blocking the door to the auditorium. What's the matter, Bradley? He asked. Hey, Chuckers, what's the name of your book? Asked Robbie. He looked at his book, then stared faintly at Robbie. Let me see it, said Robbie. Bradley clutched it against his chest. No matter what, he wasn't gonna let them harm Carla's book. Come on, Bradley, be a pal, said Robbie. I just want to see it. Curtis chuckled. Robbie stepped up toward him. You can't read it anyway, he said. Give it to me and I'll read it to you. He reached out and rested his hand on the book. Bradley jerked it away. Oh, I think he's getting angry, said Brian. I just want to see it, said Robbie. Again, he reached for the book. Bradley held it under his left arm and against his chest. He made his right hand into a fist. Robbie backed away. Jeff, he called. Come on, Jeff. Teach him a lesson, said Dan. Jeff stepped between Andy and Russell. All right, said Curtis. Hold on, said Andy. Let me get off the steps. The boys backed up. Bradley, clutching his book, walked down the concrete steps to where Jeff was waiting. Do you want me to hold your book, Bradley? Said Andy. Bradley glanced at him. Don't worry, he said sincerely. I won't hurt it. Bradley handed Andy the book, then looked at Jeff. They stood on a patch of grass and dirt and faced each other. The bruise around Jeff's eye had turned brown with a greenish tint. Jeff raised his fists. The other boys formed a circle around them. Come on, get him, Jeff, urged Brian. Give him another black eye, said Russell. Bradley readied himself. He raised his fists in the air, then lowered them. He had an idea. Hello, Jeff, he said. Robbie snickered. Jeff stared at him, wide-eyed. Hello, Bradley, he replied. Bradley smiled. He held out his hand. Jeff smiled too. It was his first honest smile in a long time. He shook his best friend's hand. The other boys were dumbfounded. No one said a word. Andy finally broke the ice. Do you like to play basketball, Bradley? He asked. Bradley looked at him, bewildered. I am not very good, he said. So, none of us are, said Jeff, patting him on the back. Now we will have even teams, said Robbie. Bradley was terrible. He dribbled with two hands. He passed the ball to people who weren't on his team. But worst of all, whenever anyone passed the ball to him, he said thank you. He never shoot at the basket. He didn't dare. Finally, after his team was losing 28-6 anyway, everyone told him to try a shot. He looked around for someone to pass to. Jeff sat down so Bradley wouldn't pass it to him. Just shoot, he said. The rest of his team sat down too. Shoot it, they said. Everybody on the other team sat down too. Shot the ball. Bradley faced the basket. His tongue slipped out the corner of his mouth as he carefully aimed it, then threw the ball high in the air. It hit the back of the rim, bounced against the backboard, then dropped through the net. Great shot, said Jeff. Way to go, said Andy, patting him on the back. At first, he couldn't believe it, but then he saw Cola's book lying on the ground at the base of the basket. No wonder, he realized. Everyone headed for the water fountain. Bradley went along too, even though he wasn't thirsty. But then, once he got there, he realized he was thirsty. He just hadn't noticed. Good game, Bradley, said Brian. You just have to stop passing to people who aren't your team, said Dan. Maybe you should give the rest of us on your team black eyes too, said Robbie. Then you'll know who to pass. Everyone laughed, even Bradley. He and Jeff were the last to laugh at the water fountain. Everyone else had already started back to class. As they drank, their eyes met and they broke up laughing. How did you get the black eye? Bradley asked after he stopped laughing. Melinda, said Jeff. Bradley nodded. She's strong, he said. Oh boy, you can say that again, said Jeff. They laughed again. My book! Bradley suddenly exclaimed. He ran back to the basketball court where he had left it. Jeff shook his head as he watched Bradley run away. Life's weird, he thought. He walked into the boys' bathroom and splashed his sweaty face with cold water. He had to hold the faucet down with one hand and splash his face with other hand. Colin Verygold walked in. He stared at her. She looked around, then screamed and ran outside. Jeff watched the door swing shut behind her. Boys' bathroom. Life was too weird for Jeff to return to class. Anytime you want to talk again, Carla had said, please feel free to come and see me, even if you just feel like getting out of class for a while. He hoped she had really meant it. He had a lot he wanted to say to her, beginning with, I'm sorry. He slowly walked to her office. He hoped she wasn't with somebody else. He knocked. Carla opened the door and smiled. When she saw him, hello, Jeff. He smiled. Hi, Carla. He stopped because he saw somebody else sitting at the round table. I believe you two know each other, said Carla. Jeff rolled his eyes. Hello, Colin, he muttered. Colin Verygold covered her face with her hands. You don't mind if Jeff joins us, do you, Colin? Carla asked. Colin shook her head with her hands still over her face. Jeff awkwardly sat down. Mrs. Abel doesn't know I'm here, he said. I'll write you a note, said Carla. Colin picked out from between her fingers. I'm not supposed to be here either, she said. Carla turned to Colin. So that's the big emergency? Can you say it in front of Jeff? He already knows, said Colin. She looked at Jeff. You better not tell anybody. I won't, Jeff promised. Tell anybody what? Said Colin. Colin walked into the boys' bathroom, said Jeff. I was there, washing my face. Jeff, Colin exploded. You just promised you wouldn't tell. Oops, said Jeff. He blushed. It was only Colin. You were gonna tell her anyway, weren't you? Colin smiled at him. I didn't go there on purpose, she explained to Carla. It was an accident. I don't believe in accidents. Colin stared at her in amazement. She wondered how Colin knew she had gone in after Jeff on purpose. She turned to Jeff. I'm sorry for saying hello to you when you didn't like it. She turned to Jeff. That's okay. Anyway, how was I supposed to know you didn't like it? You always said hello back. I know I can't help it. Whenever anybody says hello to me, I always have to say hello back. He looked at the picture of the gray monster with six hands hanging on the wall. If a big scary monster said, "Hello, Jeff," I'd probably say hello back to it too. Colin laughed. Well, what's wrong with that? Demanded Cola. If a monster says hello to you, you should say hello to it. If you don't, then I have to wonder which one of you is really monster. Is the real monster? Is really the monster? Colin frowned. She certainly remembered that Bradley Chuckers had said hello to her at the beginning of the lunch period, and she had walked away without saying hello back. It made her feel terrible. You can say hello to me whenever you want, said Jeff. She smiled again. Hello, Jeff. Hello, Colin, said Jeff. I read somewhere, said Cola, that in Zen, the most important rule is that when one person says hello to you, you have to say hello back. What's Zen? Asked Colin. A religion. Uh, she got a book. She got a book from her bookcase. Here it is. Uh, she read aloud from Reed's High the Roof Beam Carpenters by J.D. Salinger. In certain Zen monasteries, it's a cardinal rule that when a monk calls out hi to another monk, the latter must call back hi without thinking. Jeff should be a Zen monk, Colin exclaimed with delight. Jeff laughed. I rarely say hello to anybody who says hello to me, he said proudly. Can girls be Zen monks too? Colin asked. Why not? Asked Cola. Colin laughed with delight. Then she said, Jeff, do you want to come to my birthday party next Saturday? Yes, said Jeff. That's the second most important rule about being a Zen monk. Whenever another Zen monk invites you to a birthday party, you have to say yes. Colin laughed again. You're the only boy so far, she said. I'll invite one more, but only one. I can't invite too many boys. Suddenly, she looked very serious. She knew what she had to do.